this thing on? There, I did it. I started the recording.
So we're live.
We're live.
So to speak. Okay.
Coming to you live from Bloomington, Minnesota.
This is exciting.
It's so exciting. We just talked about the 3 states of mind: emotion mind, reasonable mind, and then the fulcrum on the teeter-totter.
Ooh.
Wise mind.
Wise mind, yes.
Which is the balance between the two. You don't have to choose between the two, per se, and you don't have to throw out one or the other.
Nice.
You can have both. You can have it all.
You can have it all.
That's the
I like
takeaway.
it. Yes. Yeah, well, that should be the title of this podcast.
You can have it all.
You can have it all.
You can have it all. I like it.
Or you can have both.
Or you can have
I don't know about all, but maybe both.
Okay. Yes.
It's a both and.
It's a both and.
And so we also talked about, you had some really practical and relatable self-disclosure about the snooze button.
Right. We had a cliffhanger at the end of the last episode because I was like, Brett, are these signals going to help me with my ongoing battle with the snooze button in the morning? Because I have so many things that I would like to do in that morning time, such as exercise, get organized, just take my time. And then I hit the snooze button so much, and then I don't do those things. And then I get frustrated with myself and with the snooze button. Mm-hmm. My nemesis and best friend.
Wow, that's really, I never thought of it that way. That's great.
Right?
My nemesis and best friend.
Mm-hmm. It's both.
Yeah, that is true. It's both.
Yeah.
How dialectical of you.
Right?
So, we talked about, exactly, all these dynamics, emotion, reason, and wise mind.
Right.
And we talked about also kind of therapy in a very simplistic sense is having a sense of awareness and then acceptance and then adjustments. Or in other words, mindful and then validating and accepting. Then I can be skillful. So.
Right. And I didn't realize that even with the snooze button example, I didn't realize that I was still not accepting it. Because I've been, when I think about this problem or this issue, I think about how I shouldn't be doing that with the snooze button. I shouldn't keep doing that. And the should word is basically saying is basically telling me I'm not accepting it. Right? I'm fighting with reality.
It's funny. You're fighting with reality in 2 ways.
Okay.
You're fighting with the reality of it's time to get up.
That's true.
And you're fighting with the reality of I don't want to accept that I am struggling with this. I just should be better rather than accepting that,
this is hard for me. Right. Yeah. That was the alternative you offered was instead of saying I should or I shouldn't, just being like, this is hard for me.
This is hard. No judgments.
Right.
Right. And so that kind of leads us into today and what do we need to do to get to wise mind? Because we said when we can do this and become aware and accept this, now we can really move towards changing things. And so what do I need to do to become more wise-minded? And this really takes a lot of practice and a lot of mindful awareness. And so what we want to start with is just observing.
Okay, that's the first thing.
Just observing. And so we want to observe really what's going on. It's really interesting. We feel like we're doing nothing, but yet observing is incredibly important. I had a person I was supervising recently and just talking about observing a parent in a session. Okay. And it was getting in the way of being able to work with the kiddo in the session. And I said, well, wait a second. Ooh. Just observe that. And what are you observing by the parent? You get to observe a lot and learn a lot of how does the parent approach the kiddo? What is the parent's demeanor? What is the kiddo's response to that? What's the kiddo's demeanor? Okay. And so just by observing, we learn a lot. But we're so fast-paced in our culture. I was going to say, because it sounds like in that example, what the other therapist was doing was wanting to do something about it or fix it, right? And go quickly to the change part. And you're saying, let's spend some time observing first. Yes, and that's really underscores why mindfulness practice is so important, I think, especially for people here in the United States, because we go. That is so true. At breakneck speed. And mindfulness activity of just meditating, doing some deep breathing, just 5 minutes a day even, gets us in the habit of slowing down a little bit. So we need to slow down to observe because we're missing a lot. Do you ever kind of go, like, I remember driving and like seeing a deer, and I get so excited. Oh, look, there's a deer.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And there's like a deer crossing sign. Oh, let's watch for deer. And then we forget to watch. And, 40 minutes later, we see another deer. Oh, look, there's another deer. And I think, I just happened to accidentally see that. And I wonder,
I wasn't watching.
What did I miss? There was probably a whole family of deers, like picnicking on the side of the road that I absolutely missed because I got so distracted.
Right.
And that's really what happens to us when we're in high emotion. Even when we're in reason mind a lot, we miss the emotion maybe.
Okay.
We miss context sometimes. And so that's really what we want to observe.
Okay.
We want to observe the whole context because greater context gives greater meaning.
Sure does.
If I just have a limited context, I don't get to see anything. It's like we talk about trauma, and I think we used this example before. If you put your hand right in front of your face, all you see is your hand.
Right.
And if I do that now, I don't see you.
No.
I see a lamp over here. I see a door over to my other side. I don't see you. But when I pull that out, and I have greater context, I can observe you. I can see your facial expression. I can see everything. So there's greater meaning to where I am because I've got greater context. I can really observe.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So
I have not heard that before.
It just kind of. Oh, really?
With the hand.
Yeah, I kind of like that in terms of explaining trauma. I've talked about that with my clients. I've gotten through trauma too, where they're like, "Yeah, that's all I saw was my trauma."
Right, and when you pull your hand further away, it's not like it's gone. It's still there.
Yes.
But you can see.
And you understand your hand even in a greater context, and we understand the trauma.
Right.
And so it's not that we're always dealing with trauma in relationships and things or when we have to make decisions. However, we are dealing with high emotion things sometimes.
Sure.
And so we need to get that greater context and just observe.
Yes.
And so we have things to observe. Like, what can we observe around us? Like, let's say I'm in I'm having to make a tough decision, or I'm in a tough relationship. I'm relating to somebody and it's hard. What might I observe if I just take a step back and look at context of things? What might I observe if I'm in high stress situation?
Well, the first thing I thought of was even just like noticing where you're seated.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what you were going at.
Well, yeah.
Or getting at, but like noticing the chair supporting you.
Yes.
Noticing your feet on the floor.
Okay.
So physically.
Yeah,
like just
grounding yourself a little bit. Right. Why might we need to ground ourselves? Because what's going on internally within us?
Oh, probably a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe
my heart rate.
Heart rate, yep. Your thoughts might be flying all over the place.
Yes.
You might be in emotion mind if you're stressed.
I might look at what is my body posture? Am I closed off?
Yeah, right.
You
could be aware of that, right?
Right. Are my hands kind of open to receive things, or am I closed off? A lot of people, when they're stressed, they feel their tightness in their chest or their throat, their neck, their back, or their gut, right?
Yep.
They shake, they feel hot, they feel cold. So that's what we're observing internally and externally.
Right.
So I'm going to look at the other person. I'm going to look at the context in the room, and I'm going to observe, what's this person doing?
Right.
What do I see within them? And that kind of gets into the next part of this as we begin describing. So we observe these things, and then we describe things. Okay? So when we describe things, we're trying to describe things factually, right?
Okay. Not with judgment.
Super hard.
I was going to say, especially depending on the situation.
Yes. Yeah, it's super hard.
Okay.
So when we think of describing things, and we think about describing things factually, how do I know if something is a fact?
Ooh.
And not a judgment.
Right. Well, so a judgment would be anything with the word should, probably.
Yes, and I do know many of our listeners that I get in touch with, they are really conscious of their shoulds, which I love. Yeah,
right?
They're very aware of that.
Good.
Yeah.
As they should be. I'm just kidding. Okay, so not judgment words like should, not assigning a label like good or bad.
Yes. Yeah. So a fact, we know what kind of some of the shoulds are. A fact is something we can all agree on.
Ooh, okay.
That's a fact.
Okay.
So if I were to say to you, wow, you look really...
I'm like, wait,
you're laughing. I was like, you look crabby today, which
okay.
I don't think I've ever seen you crabby. But if I were to say you look crabby today, that's a judgment.
Right, because we can't all agree on it.
Right.
I'm the only one who can say that is true or not, right?
Yes.
From my experience.
I can say it a little bit differently. I can say, to me, it looks like you're kind of crabby today.
Okay.
Now, that's a fact because I'm just talking about my experience.
Okay, so you built in your experience,
me,
so
right.
it is a fact for you.
My perception is, to me, it seems,
sure. That's fair. That's like a loophole.
Right.
Yeah.
But a fact. So here's kind of a fun thing we do.
Okay.
When we do this in group, we draw a circle.
Okay.
And just like a face. So like we draw a circle with two slanted like marks for like an eyes, like two eyes.
Yeah.
And then we just draw a horizontal line for like the mouth.
Okay.
So you got a circle with two eyes and a mouth. And we say, what is that? And it's really fun because people will say, well, that's an angry face.
Ooh.
Oh, or somebody will say, no, that's a sad face.
Oh my
or some people say, well, no, that's a face. And then, so it's like, well, notice these are all judgments because we can't all agree.
We don't know.
So what we do
great.
is we say, you know what this really is? Let's talk about it factually.
It's a circle.
It's a circle.
With three lines.
With three lines.
The straight across, the two slanted ones and the straight across one.
And we can all agree.
Right.
Now that's a fact.
I like that.
That's a fact. Now notice when we get into arguments with partners and family, etc., there's very few facts.
Right.
And what happens? Then we can go into high emotion mind, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what judgments do. And that's why not shooting on ourselves is so important because it just inflames things and it really stokes the fire of those emotions.
Right.
So we want to steer away from that. And I'll come to that in a moment. But first we want to observe. Just take a step back and observe. Kind of put your scientist lab coat on and just observe.
I like it.
And then describe everything, but describe it factually. Yeah. My heart is racing. So we don't say, I'm anxious.
Exactly. I was just going to say, you could say like, that would not be factually, right? Mm-hmm. I'm anxious, I'm stressed, whatever.
Right. Yeah, my body might be feeling anxiety.
Sure.
Even more factually, I can feel my heart beating really fast.
Yes.
My palms feel sweaty. Ooh, there's a tightness in my chest. Those are facts. Mm-hmm. And now it gets harder when I look at another person. Mm-hmm. So I can say, well, your eyebrows look furrowed, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, your mouth is trending downward, like a like a frown.
Right. Okay.
And I'm not saying you're sad or frowning. I'm just observing and I'm describing this factually.
Okay.
Your arms are crossed.
Right.
So I'm not going to say you're being oppositional.
Right. That's a leap.
Right, that's a big
leap.
We take big leaps.
But think about how often we do that.
Oh my goodness. All the time.
All the time.
So, yeah, I'm not going to say you're oppositional or you're being difficult. I'm just going to say, yeah, your arms are crossed.
Which is a fact.
Mm-hmm. Right? You can agree, I can agree. Mm-hmm. So we observe, we describe, and now we participate. This one is fun.
Okay.
Super helpful. And before we decide what we're going to do, this is so helpful to get us into that really good, wise-minded thing. When we observe and we describe, what I find is that helps bring down some of that emotional intensity.
Yeah.
Now I can think a little more rationally. And now before I actually make a decision, well, do I take this job? Do I buy this house? Do I break up with this person?
Sure.
Whatever. Come up with 7 options before you participate.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
And
I love it.
Yeah, a lot of times clients will say, well, that's crazy, 7. Yeah. And we say, well, just brainstorm. They don't have to be like the best ideas, but don't judge them.
Right. They can be any ideas.
Yeah. And one option always is you can do nothing. So now we're down to 6.
Okay. Should we use an example of like...
If we can think of one.
I know I want to come up with one. Okay, so let's say I'm thinking about... We'll just say I'm going to buy a new car.
Okay.
As a hypothetical. So one is I could do nothing and not buy a new car.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yep. You could lease a car.
I could lease a car.
Yep.
I could take the bus.
Take the bus.
I could carpool.
Could carpool.
I could try to repair my current car.
Yes, that's another option.
If that's part of it.
So you're up to 5.
5. Okay. I could just... I was going to say keep with the car I had, but that's kind of like do nothing.
Mm-hmm. You could wait.
I could wait.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Make a decision later.
I could do more research.
Do more research. Yeah, good.
Just gather more information. That was 7.
That's 7 right there.
Well, that was kind of easy.
And there's probably a lot more we could come up with.
Yes.
Now, why this is so effective is because options help to calm us down. I think of those videos of where people like see the kind of neglected dog, abandoned dog in the alley, and it's terrified, it's afraid, and there's so much anxiety by the dog, and then people come towards it and it'll lash out. Why does it lash out? It lashes out because when people come towards it, it's in a corner.
Yes.
And there's no way out. There might be one way out and you're blocking it. And so it raises the intensity of that animal, of that dog.
Yes.
And whereas if you give it lots of options, it's going to stay calm. Because it can see like, hey, I can go this way, I can go this way, I can go here. I can even stay where I am because you're not threatening my space.
Yep.
And so that's what we're trying to do is when we come up with lots of different ideas of how we're going to participate, it gives options, which helps us make a better, wise decision. And so what's difficult is that when we're in high emotion and it's hard to make a wise-minded decision, it's because we're thinking of things in terms of all or nothing, which always escalates the emotional intensity.
Yes.
And so when I'm thinking all or nothing, my intensity of my emotions just stays high. I can't manage it. As I come up with lots of different options, it's no longer an all or nothing scenario. I have lots of options.
Okay. I may or may not be having a light bulb moment with regards to the snooze button.
All right. This is a cathartic moment here.
Well,
yes.
because we talked about how, I have this ongoing thing where I get frustrated with myself because I always, the night before, Christa has grand plans and good intentions of waking up, being productive. I know, nighttime Christa and morning Christa are not on the same page.
Morning Christa.
Morning Christa is not having it.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, I get morning Christa here when we record.
Yes. Oh, and she's a delight.
She is delightful, yes.
I mean, right. And caffeinated.
Yes.
So what my question was, I was like, okay, how could I apply the coming up with 7 things to this?
Yes.
So my question for you, and this is, I honestly am wondering, am I coming up with 7 options like in the moment of pressing snooze? Or am I coming up with 7 options for like what to do about this whole scenario? Does that make sense? Because when I was thinking of in the morning, if I had to come up with 7 ideas before I could actually press snooze,
yeah,
that would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
It'd
be really interesting the options you come up with then versus maybe the night before. Because in the moment, you might have options like, I could throw my alarm clock across the room.
Yes.
I could smash it with a hammer, right?
Which it's my phone.
Right.
So I could smash my phone with a hammer.
Right.
Go to bed with a hammer under my pillow.
Yeah. Versus the night before, you might have other options.
The night before,
might be more effective.
Right. Okay.
Right. And so a lot that we could say about that. We talk about in DBT coping ahead rather than coping in the moment.
Oh, that's a good point.
When my emotion is really high,
right?
I can cope ahead when I get more blood in the brain, towards my frontal lobe. I can think more reasonably.
But maybe there's not enough blood flow in the morning.
Right. Well, there isn't for a lot of us.
Right? Because it's like, I want to make I want to make the decision that nighttime Christa would have made. Nighttime Christa would be up.
Yeah, what happened to her?
Working out.
Where did she go?
She's all of a sudden nowhere to be found. It's very rude.
Boy, that Christa.
I know. She's sneaky.
Yeah, I'm so thankful because this is such a great example that we can all relate to. And you can, if nighttime Christa were to come up with those options, then morning Christa could rely better on that. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I've got other options here.
Well, because I was even thinking, like, what would I want? What would it get me up out of bed no matter what? Yes. And I was like, what if I hadn't seen a friend or family in forever and they needed to be picked up from the airport?
Yeah.
And I needed to go and get them. And I was super excited to see them and also do them this favor. I'm not pressing snooze.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, because I'm always trying to think, like, what would motivate me, you know?
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate this, too, because I think it underscores how complex our behavior is.
Yes.
It is profoundly complex.
It's not just so simple as...
Yeah.
Because what I've been doing is being like, well, I did it again, you know?
Yes.
And I'm in the, like, judgment.
Right. And there's lots of reasons why we do what we do. It's not so simplistic as we might think of ourselves or of other people.
Okay.
And what people's motives are, right? I've heard the heart is deceitful beyond all things. Who can understand it?
Okay.
And I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
Because we can justify anything. We can deceive ourselves so easily.
Okay.
And so it's important just to, like you're saying, I need to accept this. And you know what? There's maybe a better time I can try to come up with solutions to participate. Yeah. It's not, I don't have the capacity.
In the morning. Right.
So
I really don't.
I don't have the capacity. So that's acceptance.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if I had the capacity in the morning, I would do it.
So now notice how this is really profound.
This is different.
Notice how in the morning, before you were saying, I should do better, with this belief you have the capacity.
Ah, that's the issue.
So there's where the mindfulness and awareness wasn't happening.
Because I actually don't think that I do.
You don't.
Which is a far cry from... I have it and I have the capacity and I'm just not doing it.
Yeah.
So the reality is I don't have the capacity, so let's just start from there.
Yes.
And like you were saying, cope ahead or plan differently. Because morning Christa, we know the way she is.
I love it, but look how you can laugh at that.
Exactly.
And you can embrace
and
that.
not be so irritated.
Right, with yourself.
Oh, poor morning Christa.
That's right.
She tries.
She tries so hard.
She tries so hard, but she can't do it.
And you know, this is so good. We're laughing, but it's so good because imagine if we could have sincerely that compassion towards ourselves.
Right. Like, man, I'm trying.
There are people seriously with suicidal thoughts because of their judgments towards themselves.
That is so true.
And if they could apply that kind of sincere compassion and acceptance of, and maybe even just laugh at oneself and say, yeah, poor Christa, she does try, right? She's doing the best she can.
Man, she tries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's such a great example. All right, so let's close with three things of how do we do this. Okay, so it's not just what to do. Like I want to observe, right? Yes. Take a step back, put on my lab coat, observe things. I want to describe what I'm observing factually without judgments, and then come up with 7 different things to do before I make a decision. That's what I do to get into this wise-minded place. Now the question is, how do I observe? How do I describe things? And how do I participate?
Okay, so we covered the what, and now we need the how.
Yes.
Yep, so we're at 24 minutes. Do we have time?
Not a problem.
Okay.
We got time.
Easy peasy.
Well, I don't know about that, but we'll get there. So we want to do things, first of all, non-judgmentally.
Okay.
So I want to observe non-judgmentally. We've kind of touched on this.
Yep.
I want to, as I describe things, I want to do it non-judgmentally. As I come up with ideas of how I'm going to participate, I want to do that non-judgmentally.
Okay.
So again, we've talked a lot about no shoulds.
Yes.
This is a no should zone.
No should zone.
We're trying to get into wise mind.
Okay. Love it.
So, and I think we've underscored how really detrimental it is when we're judging. So it's easy to understand and incredibly hard to do.
It is.
To observe non-judgmentally, especially if we're in high emotion. And it's really hard to describe things non-judgmentally.
It is.
If we can do it, it's incredibly freeing.
Yep.
And it's even hard to come up with all like 7 ideas without judging them, without saying, well, that's stupid. That would never work.
Yes, I'm glad you pointed that out, because the 7 ideas thing, even like you said, don't judge the ideas and don't be like, well, that's dumb or that won't work. It's like, well, we're just saying ideas. We're not saying your best ideas or your most logical ideas. We're saying ideas.
I just want to come up with options because there are options. And I just want to help myself see that.
Yep.
So non-judgmentally. Okay. Super, super relevant, super hard, super helpful.
Okay.
Now, we want to do things mindfully. Okay.
Ooh, mindfully.
Yeah, what in the world are we talking about here? So
I like it.
We want to kind of stay in the moment of observing things, of describing things, and participating. I want to stay in the moment and just have my mind being there. I always say time travel is real.
Ooh.
Because in fact, some of the research shows that about 47%, almost half of our time is not in the present moment.
I believe that.
We time travel, we get into our little DeLorean and we go back in time and we look backwards to what I call the land of the woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Oh, man.
I would have done this better. I should have done this better. I could have done this instead. And so that can lead to a lot of regret, a lot of depression.
And stress.
And so we live in the past, or we get into our DeLorean and we go into the future, into the land of the what ifs.
Like, what if this happens? What if that happens?
Yes.
Yep.
And what's the emotion then?
A fear, probably.
Fear, anxiety.
Yep.
And so time travel is real.
Yes, it is.
And some of the research shows that we do spend almost half of our time either in the past or the future.
That's so wild. It's so true.
In the present. Yeah. So, and now when we get into an argument, like if I'm in an argument with you, I'm going to do time travel. I can't believe you said that. I remember when she said this like before. She always does this.
Yeah.
And so my mind goes back to
the other times.
Past, all the other times.
Yep.
Or like you say something and like, ooh, so she's upset with me. What if she's going to like talk to my boss?
Ooh. What if this affects our friendship forever?
Right. Yes.
What if we're not as good of friends? Or what if we drift apart? Or
what if she tells other people? Or what
if she hates me now?
Yes. What if she starts gossiping? Ooh. We just did an episode on that not too long ago.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So we go there. Now, so really how we go about doing the what skills. How do we observe? How do we describe? How do we participate?
Yeah.
We do it non-judgmentally.
Yep.
Okay. We also want to do one mindfully. I want to stay in that moment. Okay?
Example, when you are eating, eat. When you are walking, walk.
Yes.
When you are worrying, worry.
Super hard because we're always trying to multitask, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right.
It's so true.
It's so hard.
Yep.
And I can't. And I'm just noticing what I just said. I can't. What an all or nothing statement. So just being mindfully aware.
Yep.
I tend to think that I'm unable to wash the dishes without listening to a podcast.
Oh, my goodness. Right? So true.
Yeah. Or walking the dog without listening to a podcast. There's a really good one called Everyday Therapy. I actually, recommend it.
Yep.
So, but notice how we're always trying to multitask. We're trying to be efficient. We're trying to always fit more things in.
Yep. Get more done.
Yeah. Let's just be in the moment. I'm not going to do anything else. And if I'm in this moment with you, that's the only thing that's real right now.
It is. Whoa.
So the past is the past.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
So what's that old Chinese proverb? I think I learned it from the movie Kung Fu Panda.
Okay.
It's the past is history, the future is a mystery.
Ooh.
And so today is a gift. That's why they call it
the present.
Yeah, and so we don't really value that present because we're in the past or in the future.
Right.
So what we're saying is, how do we do this? How do I observe, describe, participate? I can stay in the moment.
So we have non-judgmentally.
Yes.
One mindfully, and then effectively.
Yes.
Which, what does that mean?
Well, notice it doesn't say do the right thing.
Ooh.
It doesn't say, do the good thing, avoid doing bad things.
Ever.
What's effective?
Okay.
And I like that because a lot of times when we're in the moment and we're trying to make a wise-minded decision, what gets in the way is that we're not really thinking about what's effective long term. We do things in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
And we do it because it works.
Right.
Right? Somebody throws something or slams their hand down. They do it because it works. It feels good in the moment.
Right.
And that makes sense. Right? We're not going to judge that even. We're like, yeah, I do it.
Yep.
It's just not effective.
Right.
Okay. So I slam my hand, I punch the wall, and then, okay. I'm not going to say that was bad, but I am going to acknowledge that, it wasn't very effective. Did feel good in the moment for like a split second.
Right, but it wasn't effective.
Not effective.
Right. Okay.
So we want to be thinking, all right, what's effective? Okay. Hitting the snooze for the 7th time, it makes total sense.
Sure.
Hey, that extra 5 minutes is heaven. And it's just not effective.
It's not.
So that's what we want to keep in mind as we do this, as we're going to observe and describe and participate. I want to think, all right, I'm not going to judge myself, the situation, other people.
Okay.
I am also going to approach this one mindfully. I'm going to be in this moment. I'm not going to do time travel. And I'm going to do what's effective long term for me.
Okay.
So that's wise mind. And how do we get there?
I love it.
It takes some practice.
Yep.
It's not rocket science, but it does take some practice.
It does. I love it. I thought about, so we kind of had a breakthrough with Morning Christa today.
Yes.
Meaning we realized that she doesn't have the capacity to do something differently, make that decision reasonably,
yes.
right? I was just thinking about, have you ever seen, there's a video that I saw recently of a dog owner and the dog, and he's got a plate of food and he pretends to like collapse. And the test of the dog is like, is he going to eat the food that just fell on the floor? Or is he going to go and check and see what's going on with the owner? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And inevitably the dog goes for the food.
Really?
Well, in this video anyway. Yeah. So I was just like, that's like me and the snooze button. Like,
yes. It's like all of us, isn't
exactly, but it's like I just realized that like a way to have compassion for Morning Christa because she's going to do the snooze button, right? Like,
yes,
and So anyway, it made me chuckle.
Well, you've made me chuckle. This is good, and I think you've really helped make this incredibly relevant for all of us, and it's been fun to watch. Like, and you model for us like mindful awareness and acceptance, and now you can be making wise-minded decisions.
All right, I'll report back because I'm gonna try some stuff.
Well, yeah, we'll look forward to hearing
the ongoing saga.
And if you keep hitting the snooze, that means one of two things: either you're gonna have to sing, or I get to snap and whistle as loud and as often as I want.
Oh boy, that might actually motivate me.
Right. So we're being all behavioral here.
Stay tuned, everybody.
Thank you as always for listening, and please be sure to leave us a review. While this podcast can't be a replacement for therapy, we hope you enjoyed our discussion today and join us again next time. Nystrom & Associates is always available to those who are struggling. If you find yourself in need of support and help, please check us out at nystromcounseling.com.